have watched a man go over the side of a boat into calm, cold water. No storm, no wave, the sea flat as a mill pond and the sky clear above it. And I have watched that man, a strong man, a good swimmer, be dead before any of us could get a line to him. Not in 10 minutes, not in 5, in 1, in the first minute. And here is the thing that took me years to understand and longer to make my peace with. The cold did not kill him. The cold had not even started. What killed him was the first minute in the water. And the first minute in the water has drowned more good men than all the long, cold hours that folk are so afraid of, put together. I know how backward that sounds. Stay with me, because everything you believe about cold water is built around the slow death, the freezing, the hours of shivering, the numbness creeping in, the long fight against the cold that everyone imagines when they think of a man in the sea. And that death is real, and I will not tell you it isn't. But it is not the one that takes most men, and it is not the one you should fear most. Because by the time the cold itself is killing you, you have already had an hour or more. And an hour is a long time at sea, long enough for a great many things to go right. The men who die of the cold at least get that hour. Most men never get it. Most men are gone inside 60 seconds, in water that would not have killed them for hours if they had only survived the first of them. And they die, not because the sea was too cold or too rough, but because of what their own bodies did to them the instant they went under, and what they did to themselves in the panic that followed. The men who lived through that first minute lived. It is very nearly that simple. Survive the first minute, and the sea gives you the hour. Lose the first minute, and you never see it. And what separates the two is one thing, and it is the last thing on earth a drowning man wants to do, and I am going to show it to you. Let me tell you who I am, so you know this is not a thing I read. I have spent my life in the small boats and on the ships, and I have seen more men go into cold water than I could count or would want to, and I have pulled a great many of them back out, and the lesson of it, the one that matters more than any other thing I know about the sea, is written in the ones I could not save. The ones who were strong and could swim and were gone before we could turn the boat. It made no sense to me for years. The weak ones lived and the strong ones died, and I could not fathom why, until an old hand took me aside and told me the thing that sounds like madness, the thing that is the whole of it, and I watched it prove true over and over until I could not doubt it, and now I hand it to you. The old hand who told me had learned it the hardest way there is. He had gone over the side young, in a cold sea, alongside a shipmate, and the two of them, both good swimmers, had done what good swimmers do. Struck out hard for the ship. And halfway there, something happened to him he could never afterward explain. A cramp, a wave, a moment where his heart simply failed him. He did not know, but he gave up. He stopped, too spent and too frightened to pull another stroke, and he lay back on the water expecting to die and waited for it. And it did not come. He floated there, certain he was finished, and the minutes passed, and his breath came back to him, and the panic drained away. And he was, to his own astonishment, still alive. While his shipmate, the stronger swimmer, the one who kept fighting, had gone under within sight of the ship and was never found. He lived because he quit. His friend died because he would not. And it took him the better part of his life, he told me, to understand that the giving up had been the saving of him, and that the sea had been trying to teach him the one lesson it teaches almost no one, because almost no one lives through the lesson to carry it back. So hold this and keep hold of it. How does a strong man, a real swimmer, go into calm water on a clear day and drown in the first 60 seconds, while a weaker man beside him, a man who could barely swim a stroke, did nothing at all and was still alive an hour later when the boat came round? That is the riddle. And the answer is 3 things, and every one of them is your own body and your own instinct turning against you in the moment you can least afford it. Here is the first, and it is the one that takes a man before he even knows he is in danger. The instant a man hits cold water, the very instant, before thought, before fear, before anything, his body does a thing he cannot stop and cannot control. It gasps. One huge, sudden, involuntary heave of the lungs, a great gulp of air pulled in all at once, more than a man ever takes in a normal breath. It is the body's answer to the shock of the cold, and no strength of will can hold it back. And here is the killing part. If a man's head is under the water when that gasp comes, and going over the side, going under, being dumped by a boat, more often than not it is, then he does not gulp air. He gulps the sea. He pulls a great draught of cold water straight down into his lungs in the first second, before he has understood he is even in trouble. And that is very often the whole of it, right there. A strong man, a swimmer, drowned by a single breath he could not stop himself from taking, in calm water, under a clear sky, with the boat not 20 feet away. The cold never touched him. His own lungs did it. And understand how little it takes. The gasp is no small thing a man might ride out. It is a great heaving pull of the lungs, the body trying to seize a huge draught of air all at once against the shock, near as much as a man's chest can hold. And if what rushes in is water instead of air, that is very nearly all it takes. One breath. That is the whole of the margin. Not a long struggle, not a slow going under with time for a line to reach him. One single breath a man could not stop himself from taking, at the wrong instant, and a fellow who was fit and strong and unafraid a heartbeat before is finished. And the cruelest part, for the ones who watch, is that from the boat it hardly looks like anything at all. No thrashing, no cry. A man goes in, and he does not come back up, and those watching cannot make sense of it, because he was right there, and the water was flat calm, and he could swim like a fish. They spend the rest of their lives certain that something went wrong they should have caught. Nothing went wrong that any eye could have caught. He breathed at the wrong moment. That is how fast the first minute is, and how quiet. Stay with me, because if he lives through the gasp, and some do, the second thing is already coming, and it is what finishes most of the rest. That first gasp does not stand alone. It is the front of a wave, and behind it comes fast, hard, uncontrollable breathing. A panting a man cannot slow no matter how he tries, his chest heaving, the air going in and out of him too fast to be any use, and with it a rising, blind, animal panic that has nothing to do with courage or cowardice and cannot be reasoned with. His whole body has been plunged into a shock it was never built to bear, and it responds the only way it knows, by screaming at him to fight, to thrash, to swim, to get out, now. And so he does. He thrashes. He fights the water with everything he has. He tries to swim hard for the boat, for the shore, for anything. And every one of those things is exactly wrong. The thrashing drives his face under and lets more water in past the gasping he cannot control. The wild swimming burns through what little strength the cold is already stealing from him. And the panic itself, the sheer terror of the breathing gone wild, is enough on its own to pull a man under. He does not drown because he cannot swim. He drowns because he swims too hard, in the 1 minute when swimming is the thing that kills. And that is the third of it, and the cruelest, because it is not a weakness. It is the strong man's very strength turned against him. The stronger and abler a man is, the more he trusts himself to fight his way out of trouble. And so the harder he fights, and the faster he burns himself out and floods himself under. The strong swimmer's whole life has taught him one lesson about deep water. When you are in it, you swim. And in the first minute of cold water, that lesson is a death sentence. He does the thing that has always saved him, the thing he is best at in all the world, and it drowns him. While the weak man, the one who never learned to swim, the one with no strength to fight and no faith in his own arms, that man, having nothing else, does the only thing left to him. He lies back. He floats. He does nothing. And doing nothing is the one thing in all the sea that saves him. Stay with me, because now you have the whole shape of it, and the answer is almost in your hands. I saw it laid out plain once, the way the old hand had promised me I would. 2 men went into the water off the same vessel within a moment of each other. The first was a bosun's mate, a powerful man, a swimmer we all knew could cross a harbor on a wager, and the moment he was in, he did what such a man does. He struck out, hard and fast and sure, for the boat we were bringing round. We none of us feared for him. He was the last man aboard we'd have feared for. And he was dead before we reached him, face down, not from any wound and not from any wave, simply gone, burned out and drowned inside a minute with the strongest strokes any of us had ever seen. The second man could not swim a yard. He'd told me so himself, ashamed, weeks before. And when he went in, he did the only thing his terror and his ignorance left him able to do. He threw his head back and lay on the water like a dead man and did not move, because he had no notion of how to do anything else. And when we finally worked the boat around to him, long minutes later, far longer than the strong man had lasted, he was still there, still floating, still alive. The swimmer died and the man who could not swim lived. And the whole and entire difference between them was that one of them fought the water and the other, by pure blind luck, did not. Now hear why no one knows this, because it is the same reason it goes on killing. Everything in a man tells him the opposite. Everything he has ever been taught, everything his own body screams at him in the water, says the same thing. Swim, fight, struggle, get out. It is the most natural instinct there is, and it is dead wrong. And it is almost impossible to overcome because it does not feel like a mistake. It feels like the will to live itself. And the men who learn the truth of it learn it in the water, in that first minute. And most of them do not come back to tell it. The ones who drowned cannot teach you. The ones who lived very often lived by accident, like that frightened man, and never understood that their helplessness had saved them. So the knowledge does not pass. It stays locked in a thing that feels like cowardice. Do nothing, do not fight, lie still and let the sea have its minute. And no man's pride wants to hear it, and so every generation sends its strongest and its bravest into cold water to do the brave, strong, natural thing, and to die of it in a minute, in water that would not have killed a floating coward for hours. And there is a pride in it that makes it worse than mere ignorance. Tell a strong man, a proud man, a man who has swum all his life, that the way to live through cold water is to lie still and do nothing and let it have its minute of him and watch his face. It sounds like weakness. It sounds like the counsel you'd give a frightened child, not a grown man of the sea. Every instinct he owns and every ounce of what he thinks himself to be rises up against it. And so even the men who have heard the truth plainly, who were told by someone who knew, will forget it in the water or refuse it outright. Because in the moment, the old pride and the old panic together are louder than any warning ever spoken. And they do the strong thing, the brave thing, the thing that drowns them. It is not enough to know this. You have to believe it down to the bone, deep enough that it can hold when every part of you is screaming the opposite. And that is the hardest kind of knowing there is. So here is what the old hand knew, and what I am handing you now, and I beg you to carry it. Because a day may come when it is the only thing between you and the deep. If you go into cold water, off a boat, off a dock, through the ice, however it comes, do not fight it. However, every nerve in your body screams at you to swim, to struggle, to get out that instant, you must not. The first minute is not yours to win by fighting. It is only yours to survive by surrendering. So the moment you are in, you lean back. You get your face and your mouth up out of the water and you keep them there. You spread your arms and your legs and you float, like the dead, like the man too frightened to do anything else. And you do not try to swim, and you do not try to fight, and you do not try to get anywhere at all. You just float, and you let the gasping come, and you let it be, and you ride it out, breath by ragged breath, for the 60 or 90 seconds it takes for the shock to pass and your breathing to come back under your own command. That is all. Survive that minute doing nothing, and the panic fades, and the breath returns, and the sea hands you the hour it was always going to give you. And only then, calm, breathing, master of yourself again, do you decide whether to swim and where. Fight the minute, and you never get the hour. Float the minute, and the hour is yours. And if you are ever the one on the boat watching a man go in, know your part in it too. Because you can make it better or you can make it worse. The worst thing you can do is shout at him to swim, to hurry, to strike out toward you, because you will only feed the panic that is the thing actually killing him. If he can hear you at all, tell him the opposite. Tell him to float. Tell him to lie back and breathe and do nothing, that you are coming, that he has time, that all he must do in the world is float and wait. A calm voice telling a drowning man he has time can be worth more than the fastest oar in the boat, because it fights the true killer, which is not the water but the terror. Bring the boat to him steady and sure, and do not let your own fright turn the rescue into a second drowning. His task is to survive the first minute. Your task is to give him a reason to believe that he can. They did not die because the sea was too cold. The water that killed them in a minute would have held a floating man for an hour or more, and everyone in it had that hour available to them, free for the taking, if they had only survived the 60 seconds that stood in the way. They died because the first thing cold water demands of a man is that he panic and fight, and almost every man gives it exactly what it asks. And the ones who lived were the ones who could do the one impossible thing: refuse. Refuse to fight. Refuse to swim. Lie still and do nothing while every part of you howls to struggle, and trust that the stillness that feels like giving up is the only thing that is not. And I have come to think that is the truest thing the sea ever taught me, and it holds far past the waterline, that there are moments, the worst and most sudden ones, the ones that take us by the throat before we can think, when the instinct that feels most like fighting for your life is the very thing that ends it. When the panic that demands you thrash and struggle and do something, anything, right now, is the enemy, and the hardest and bravest thing a man can do is to go still and breathe and wait for the first terrible minute to pass before he moves at all. The sea taught me that stillness is not surrender. Out there, in that first minute, stillness is the whole of survival. And I have found it true of a great many first minutes since, on the water and far from it. I have watched men drown on dry land the very same way. The one who gets the terrible news and does something rash in the first hour of it, when doing nothing at all and simply breathing would have carried him through to where he could think again. The one whose whole life capsizes in a single moment and who thrashes, grasps at the first wild thing within reach, makes the ruinous choice, fights the current instead of floating on it, and goes under, when the sinking was survivable if he had only held still and let that first minute pass. It is the same law, and the sea taught it to me plainer than life on land ever could, that the sudden disasters, the ones that take a man by the throat before he can think, are not survived by fighting hardest in the first instant. They are survived by not drowning in that instant, by going still and breathing and refusing the panic, and buying yourself the hour in which the fighting, if fighting is even needed, can actually be done well. The first minute of any catastrophe belongs to your panic, if you let it. The whole art of coming through is to give it nothing and wait. So tell me, down in the comments, when has the thing that felt like fighting for your life been the very thing that nearly cost it? When did going still and waiting and refusing to panic save you where struggling would have sunk you? Put it below. I would like to know how many of you have learned to distrust your own first instinct in the moment it screams loudest. Next time, I will tell you about a killer that no cold and no drowning had any part in. The slow one that crept through a crew over long months while the officers watched, helpless, unable to stop a man rotting alive by inches, and the cure for it that sat in the ship's own stores the entire time if a single soul aboard had understood what he was looking at. Until then, mind your fire. And remember, the first minute in the water asks you for your panic, so give it none.